This is the GoreTV podcast with your hosts Jill Valentine and Sebastian Castellanos. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, we're diving into something a little different today, huh? Video game horror.
Oh, I'm always up for a little horror, but video games, that's not usually our style.
Yeah, and it's not even like intentional horror. We're talking about a game that's infamous for being so bad.
Yeah.
So frustrating that it kind of becomes scary.
Okay, now that's interesting. You have my attention. What game could possibly be that bad?
Well, our sword for this deep dive is GoreTV. They're usually all about those slasher flicks and creepypasta, but they did a whole thing on Superman 64.
Superman 64. Wait, wasn't that game like universally hated?
Exactly. Often considered one of the worst games ever made.
Okay, so how does a bad Superman game turn into horror?
Well, GoreTV starts with the graphics. You'd think Metropolis would be, well, lively.
Right, full of color. And those classic Superman comics always had so much action.
But Superman 64, GoreTV called it a foggy wasteland, all bland and, like, monotonous. More bleak than scary, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a different kind of horror, right? Not jump scares, but that unsettling atmosphere. Fog, repetitive scenery, that can really mess with you.
And this was 1999, so it's not like gamers back then were expecting, photorealism or anything.
True. So even for its time, it sounds like Superman 64 was a visual letdown.
Big time.
Right.
And this is where that whole accidental thing comes in, I doubt the developers were aiming for atmospheric horror, but those technical limitations, they kind of created it anyway.
It's like stumbling into a creepy vibe by mistake. Which, speaking of stumbling, how does Superman even FLIY in this game? That seems like it'd be hard to mess up.
Oh, you would think. It's Superman's thing, right?
Yeah, his signature power. Soaring through the sky. It's iconic.
Get this. GoreTV said controlling Superman in this game is like dragging your character through molasses.
Oh, no. That does not sound very Superlay or fun.
Nope. And that ties into the whole psychology of horror, doesn't it? That feeling of helplessness, like you're robbed of control.
Absolutely. You're Superman. You're supposed to be this powerhouse. But instead, you're stuck battling the controls.
Battling is the right word. And don't even get me started on the rings.
The rings. Oh, right. I had almost forgotten about those. A true mark of Superman 64's legacy.
I swear, if you played this game, just hearing about those rings probably gives you flashbacks.
For those lucky enough to have avoided this experience, help me out here. What are we talking about?
So basically, there are all these rings scattered throughout the game, right? And you have to fly Superman through them.
Sounds simple enough. Maybe a test of skill.
In theory.
Yeah.
But in reality, it was just tedious. And frustrating, and the game forced you to do it constantly.
So not so much a test of skill as a test of your patience. A recipe for a gamer rage quit. So, bad graphics, awful controls. How are the enemies?
Let's just say the enemies in Superman 64. Not exactly the stuff of nightmares, more like glitches that want to pick a fight.
Glitches that want to pick a fight. Okay, now I have to see this.
Oh, it gets better. GoreTV said that fighting them was like fighting ghosts of enemies that never properly loaded.
That's oddly specific, but I can picture it perfectly.
And see, that's what I love about GoreTV. They have such a way with words.
But what's fascinating is that it's not even the enemies themselves, it's the sheer jankiness of it all. Bad AI, weird movement, it's like that Uncanny Valley thing, but for video games.
So, bad graphics, clunky controls, glitchy enemies. Is there anything about Superman 64 that isn't accidentally horrifying?
Well, we haven't talked about the objectives yet. Or, as GoreTV so eloquently put it, the objectives from a fever dream. Picture this. Superman, the symbol of hope, defender of justice. Suddenly he's got to, defuse bombs hidden in phone booths.
Wait, seriously? That's what they went with for Superman 64?
Yeah, that's just a taste of the bizarre missions you'd find in this. Right, and it's that lack of any sort of cohesion, that jump between these nonsensical tasks. It just adds to this overall feeling of, unease, Yeah,
it's like a nightmare where the rules keep changing and nothing makes any sense. Okay, I'm getting why GoreTV calls this accidental survival horror. So the game's a mess, visually, mechanically, and it doesn't even try to tell a decent story.
Nope. Superman 64 is a perfect example of ludonarrative dissonance.
Ludonarrative? Oh, I gotta pause you there. For those of us who don't speak fluent video game design, break that down for us.
Sure. It basically means the story the game's trying to tell and the actual gameplay. Total mismatch. Like, imagine watching a movie about, say, a master chef.
Okay, I'm with you.
But then the game based on it makes you solve jigsaw puzzles that have nothing to do with cooking.
It'd be weird.
Exactly. Jarring. And with Superman 64, it's the same thing. You've got this iconic superhero, right? Known for incredible power, saving the day.
But instead, the game makes you fly through rings and collect coins.
Pretty much. It's almost insulting to the source material. You're stuck with these mundane tasks, no epic battles, no saving Metropolis. No wonder people hated it.
And it's not even like a fun kind of challenge. Like those games where the difficulty is the point.
Totally different. Those games are hard, but fair. Superman 64 just feels broken. Like the game itself is working against you.
Ugh, that's the worst. It's like when you're fighting the controller more than you're fighting the actual game.
And that's where the real horror of Superman 64 comes in. According to GoreTV, at least.
Okay, so what do they mean real horror? It's more than just the bad controls and stuff.
It's the psychological toll it takes. They called it a survival horror of patience, of willpower, of sheer grit.
Because playing Superman 64, it's not about fun. It's about enduring.
How much frustration can you take before you snap, basically?
Exactly. And honestly, that can be way more unsettling than any jump scare or monster.
You know, it's true. There's something about technology not working right. It's like this weird primal fear. Totally. It's like we're scared that the stuff we create might actually drive us crazy.
GoreTV actually said, even though they gave it like a 1 out of 10, that it's perfect for the bravest bloodhounds out there.
Ah, yes, the bloodhounds. GoreTV's name for their viewers. Gotta love it.
So they acknowledge it's awful, but there's almost like this dare in it.
Yeah.
Like, we dare you to play this and stay sane.
It's that morbid curiosity, like slowing down to look at a car crash. We know it's going to be bad, but we can't look away.
And Superman 64.
Ah.
It's like the video game car crash then.
Yeah.
A total disaster that we can't help but dissect.
So, in a way, Superman 64 is a terrible game, but maybe a fascinating study in, like, accidental horror.
The question is, when does a challenge cross the line and become torture?
Yeah, where does it stop being about pushing your skills and become more about just, like, how much can you take?
Right, and I think it's different for everyone. But being self-aware is huge. If a game or any media really is messing with you, you can tap out.
Sometimes it's better to walk away than, keep getting punched in the face for no reason. Exactly. And maybe that's the real takeaway from Superman 64. Not all challenges are worth conquering. Some are best left alone.
So we've gone deep on Superman 64, a game so bad it's almost legendary.
A cautionary tale about game design gone wrong, but also this weird look into how we deal with frustration and our love-hate thing with technology, right?
For sure. And hey, if any of you out there decide to experience this accidental horror for yourselves, don't come blaming us for the nightmares.
But seriously, we want to hear from you. Ever played a game, watched a movie, read a book, where the flaws were kind of the point, like they made it more engaging? Tell us about it.
That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.